Did you know there are animals that can breathe through their skin? Or that some whales can dive over 2,000 meters without suffering from the crushing pressure? Now imagine, what if we, humans, could do the same? Could we one day explore the ocean depths without oxygen tanks? Have you ever wondered why we can't breathe underwater, even though water contains oxygen? It's a question that has fascinated scientists and curious minds for centuries. Dr. Peter Agre, Nobel Prize winner for his discoveries about water channels in cells, sheds some light on the subject. Human lungs are designed to capture oxygen from air, not water. Water contains dissolved oxygen, but not in a form our lungs can process. Let's understand how our lungs work. Imagine them as large balloons with ultra-thin walls filled with tiny sacs called alveoli. These alveoli provide a massive surface area, about 70 square meters in an adult, for gas exchange. When we breathe, oxygen from the air enters the alveoli, crosses their walls, and enters the bloodstream. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide from the blood exits the alveoli and is exhaled. In water, oxygen is present, but in a very different form. It is dissolved among the H2O molecules in concentrations much lower than in air. To put it in perspective, water contains only about 1/30th of the oxygen that the same volume of air holds. Moreover, our lungs lack the ability to extract this oxygen because they are designed to handle gases, not liquids. Even if we dived deep or tried to inhale water, our lungs couldn't capture the necessary oxygen to keep the body functioning. Fish, on the other hand, have a clever trick: gills. Gills work like highly efficient filters that extract dissolved oxygen from water. Water enters through the fish's mouth and flows over the gills, where oxygen is captured through a process called countercurrent exchange. This means the fish's blood and the water flow in opposite directions, maximizing the amount of oxygen absorbed. Thanks to this adaptation, fish can survive in environments with very low oxygen levels, like polluted rivers or stagnant waters. Now imagine if our bodies had something similar. We could explore oceans without oxygen tanks, live in underwater cities, or even colonize parts of the planet that are currently uninhabitable for humans. However, science is still far from replicating the efficiency of gills in our bodies. Additionally, there are physiological challenges. Our anatomy simply isn't designed to function in aquatic environments. Fish aren't the only creatures capable of underwater breathing. Some amphibians, like aquatic salamanders, can absorb oxygen directly through their skin, an ability called cutaneous respiration. Could we, in the future, develop something similar? This idea is what drives many researchers to explore possibilities like biotechnology and genetic engineering. Understanding why we can't breathe underwater is just the first step in imagining how science could change this scenario in the future. After all, nature has already shown us that the possibilities are endless. When it comes to finding ways to breathe underwater, nature is undoubtedly our greatest teacher. It has already developed incredible solutions for aquatic survival challenges, and scientists are constantly looking at marine creatures for inspiration. Dr. Frank Fish, a specialist in marine biomechanics, studies how animals like whales, turtles, and salamanders adapt to living in environments where air and water coexist. One fascinating example comes from whales, which are mammals like us, but spend almost their entire lives in the sea. Whales have lungs that collapse under pressure when diving to great depths, which prevents internal damage caused by the extreme water pressure, explains Dr. Fish. Unlike humans, who could suffer severe injuries in such situations, whales store oxygen in their muscles and blood, allowing them to stay submerged for long periods, even at extreme depths. For example, a sperm whale can dive over 2,000 meters deep and remain underwater for up to 90 minutes without returning to the surface to breathe. Other surprising adaptations come from smaller animals like salamanders and frogs, which can perform cutaneous respiration. They can absorb oxygen directly through their skin without using gills or lungs, as long as their skin remains constantly moist. This ability is particularly useful in environments where the dissolved oxygen in the water is enough to meet their needs. The axolotl salamander, known as the aquatic monster, not only breathes through its skin, but can also regenerate body parts like limbs or even portions of its heart and brain, making it a fascinating model for scientific studies. Now, imagine if humans could adopt these strategies. Scientists are investigating ways to mimic these natural adaptations. One of the most promising possibilities is the development of devices that simulate artificial gills. These devices could filter oxygen directly from water, like fish gills, allowing a person to breathe underwater for extended periods. Another line of research involves bioengineering, creating genetic modifications to include characteristics like cutaneous respiration in humans. This would open the door to a new era of underwater exploration. For example, prototypes of suits that function as artificial skin already exist, extracting oxygen from water. These suits, inspired by amphibian cutaneous respiration, could enable divers to explore oceans without the need for heavy oxygen tanks. Another futuristic approach considers genetic editing to incorporate genes from salamanders or other aquatic animals into human DNA, creating a kind of human adapted to marine environments. The axolotl salamander is considered a nature superhero, and in addition to breathing through its skin and regenerating body parts, it can remain in its larval form throughout its life, a phenomenon known as neoteny. This means it retains juvenile characteristics while being fully functional and capable of reproducing. This unique trait makes it a key focus for research on regeneration and respiration. Thinking about adapting our respiratory abilities for aquatic environments brings us closer to a future where humanity could coexist more intimately with the oceans. Inspired by nature's perfection, scientists are only beginning to explore the possibilities of living and breathing in the depths of the sea. Who knows what incredible breakthroughs await us? Inspired by the perfection of nature's solutions, scientists are only beginning to explore the possibilities of living and breathing underwater. Who knows? In a few decades, we might see devices or modifications that make this idea a reality. After all, the underwater world remains one of the greatest mysteries of our planet, and the key to unlocking it may lie in secrets animals have known for millions of years. It sounds like science fiction, but the use of oxygen-carrying liquids is real. Dr. Thomas Schaffer, a specialist in respiratory medicine, studies substances called perfluorocarbons, liquids capable of carrying large amounts of oxygen. These have already been used to treat premature newborns with lung problems. Here's how it works. Instead of filling your lungs with air, you would fill them with an oxygen-rich liquid. This liquid could enable you to breathe underwater without the need for an air tank. Why isn't this widely used yet? The density of the liquid poses a challenge for the human body. Our lungs are not designed to handle heavy liquids, so we would need to strengthen our organs before this could become viable. This technology has already been tested on animals and even featured in movies. In The Abyss, the idea of liquid breathing was portrayed in a way that closely resembles real research. But breathing underwater isn't just about capturing oxygen. Water pressure is one of the biggest challenges. Dr. Peter Wilmshurst, a specialist in hyperbaric medicine, explains that as you descend into deep waters, the weight of the water can compress your lungs and cause severe issues like gas embolism. Additionally, breathing pure oxygen at great depths can cause oxygen toxicity, a dangerous condition that affects the nervous system. That's why even professional divers need specific gas mixtures to avoid complications. Curiosity. Did you know that sperm whales can dive more than 2,000 meters deep? They store oxygen in their blood and muscles instead of their lungs to cope with the extreme pressure. One day, this technique could inspire human adaptations. What if we could alter our DNA to adapt to aquatic environments? Dr. Jennifer Doudna, one of the creators of the CRISPR gene editing technique, believes that in the future we could modify our genes to include traits from other animals. Imagine adding genetic gills to our bodies. Another solution would be creating ultra-thin devices capable of extracting oxygen from water. Some scientists are already developing prototypes of suits that function as artificial gills, allowing us to dive for long periods without oxygen tanks. Did you know that octopuses are considered some of the smartest animals in the world? Not only can they breathe underwater, but they can also change color to camouflage themselves. Could we one day become as adaptable as octopuses? If we could breathe underwater, how would it change the world? We could build underwater cities, explore the ocean depths, and even discover new forms of life. According to explorer Jacques Cousteau, less than 5% of the oceans have been explored. That means vast, uncharted areas full of mysteries are still waiting to be uncovered. But there's a worrying side. Oceanographer Dr. Sylvia Earle warns that human presence in the oceans could exacerbate problems like pollution and the destruction of marine habitats. We need balance, living underwater without harming marine life. Scientists have already discovered completely new species in extreme depths, such as dragonfish and robotic crabs. Who knows what else is waiting to be discovered? Finally, the big question arises. Should we really do this? Renowned environmental philosopher Aldo Leopold once said, "When we manipulate the environment, we are shaping not only nature, but also ourselves." This raises ethical dilemmas. If we start modifying our bodies to live underwater, will we still be human? Or will we become something entirely new? Additionally, how can we ensure these changes don't harm marine ecosystems? Did you know that some ancient cultures believed in sea people? Perhaps in the future, those legends could become reality, with a healthy dose of science. Curious to discover how far science can take us? If you want to explore more incredible ideas like this and understand how the future could turn the impossible into reality, subscribe to the channel now. Don't miss any videos about the wonders of nature, scientific advancements, and how they can change our world.